Wow. If you do it, I'm walking out of the room. Dave, you told me the side button. Now do the big middle one.
It's not working for me.
You know what, David?
This is the last one that we put in. Right?
David, I believe in you, and I want to encourage you. I want you to know that you honor me by the way you just did that. You're super missing.
Go back to the first one that you were.
Okay, I'm going to do this quick because you guys have been in the house of pain and you probably need a break from me. But this is kind of interesting. If you're trying to figure out who we are, let me give you one more side of the cube on this thing. Susan? Susan?
Is that me?
Yeah.
That's you. Okay, now come right here and do it. Just like Try it. Just go. You see?
There you
Oh, Susan? All right, let me try it. So we're using this one. You're running out of USB ports. You got like 10 of these things going? I need a holster. Guys, my dad is a strategist. And I think it's an interesting way to think about somebody. My dad's a strategist. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Oh boy. Susan, is that you? Okay. I'm going to advance all of these. Oh, baby. 4 for 4. 4 for 4. This, fortunately and unfortunately, this is my dad. Try being a teenager with this kind of stuff. But he analyzes complex things, and he designs a very practical path forward. Okay, he sees a desired future state, and puts it in the present, so that that future state seems achievable to others. It's got a higher level view. My dad's always zooming out, rarely zooms in. We'll be in a meeting, we're talking about something, it's time out, zoom out. What are you trying to solve? He's really good at it. And you're like, yeah, you're right, we're probably wrapped around that axle. I use that metaphor a lot. They're like, zoom out, connect with the big picture, what matters. So these are people that can see beyond the near term, and they can establish really clear long-term direction. A couple other things I want to say about this. Wow, 5 for 5. He's really good at seeing external landscape, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. And then can see, are we strong or weak in this landscape? Okay? And at the same time can see where do opportunities exist or even threats. That's a real hallmark of a strategist. They know competition, and they understand the strategy of a competition. They apply critical thinking and discipline, right? And they really kind of get to, this is what really matters. This is what we need to work on. And they can see key resources that can be leveraged. So if you said describe your dad, like this is the dad I grew up with. My dad never coached a team for me and rarely came to any of my games. And it's not some after school special that I'm all bummed about, right? But when we did talk and when we did engage, it was on this stuff. He would be like, hey, let me help you think about this or think about that. So at age 29, I was made a national director of a New York domiciled insurance and investment company, 170-year-old company, and I should not have the job. And I called him and I'm like, I am absolutely in the deep end. And he was, all right, let me teach you a process. Let me start teaching you how to think this way. And he got me to where I was comfortable speaking to my boss or my boss's boss because he taught me to zoom out and see the world from their view and then zoom in and get my job done. And he made me zoom in and zoom out. It's like Google Earth. It's like zooming me out and then zoom back in. Go back to your residence. Then zoom out and see the world. Make sure you're checking on it and then zoom back in. Now, why does that matter to you guys? Well, these two critical skill sets are strategists are typically visionary and they're good critical thinkers. And when I think about my dad, I'm like, well, let's talk about visionary. There's a really cool app out there that defines your superpower. It's by SY Partners if you get it on your phone. It's a couple bucks. But it takes you through about 20 questions and it literally tells you like your superpower is this. And these are the superpowers that are listed there. So there's a whole list of them. It can be complexity busting or critical thinking or evangelizing. Maybe you're really good at telling the story. It can be systems thinking. But my dad's is, when he took the test, I came to the house and my dad, I want you to take this test. It was funny because he doesn't like tactical stuff, so it was about like 18 questions in. He's like, how long is this going to take? I'm like, just stay there. Keep going. Finishes, he turns the phone around, he hands it back to me. Vision. I'm like, aha. Okay, visionary people see a future destination. They can see it. Maybe a little hazy how to get there, but they're good at seeing the future and what's going to happen. I was really surprised when I saw that. So let's be fair, right? This is the Great Salt Lake. And when my dad was finding this stuff, I'm like, Dad, saltwater? Are you kidding me? Like, really? You think you're a strategist? This is pool water. This is like YMCA stuff. So you gotta be honest with me, right? I mean, you walk in and hand this stuff over to you and you're like, what is this? This is pool water. And he's like, no, this is actually really significant. Now, just to be clear, if you came out and saw us, there's a very, very, very specific process to take pharmaceutical grade safety and make it into the product, right? It's a patented process. But for me, it was really tough to get my hands around at the beginning. I was like, this isn't real. But what did my dad? My dad had this ability for vision. This is a great quote from a great book that I found. It says, throughout the centuries, there were men who took first steps down new roads, and they were armed with nothing but their own vision. Their goals differed, they all had this in common. The step was first. The road new, the vision unborrowed, and the response they received, hatred. The great creators, the thinkers, the artists, the scientists, the inventors stood alone against the men of their time. My dad is one of these guys. Wayne Gretzky said this great quote. He said, I skate where the puck's going to be, not where it's been. So let me tell you this. You guys are sitting in a room, and I'm telling you, mark my words, this is where the puck is going on the ice. It's going to something called redox. A few years back, the Society for Free Radical Biology renamed themselves the Society for Redox Biology. 20 years ago, antioxidants were the game. Cherry 7-Up puts antioxidants on it because they got cherry syrup in it. So think about the evolution of a term like antioxidants becoming prevalent enough that the general public begins to say antioxidant means good. It's just classic marketing and positioning. What they're missing is that reductants and oxidants working in harmony together in the human body are not just good, they're fundamentally vital and necessary. And yes, excess oxidants in the body need to be quenched through antioxidant mechanisms, but in absence of a balance of both reductants and oxidants, you're messed up. I'm not a scientist. Thank you very much. You're messed up. So when you think about that, you say, well, that seems to make some sense, right? So oxidants, friend or foe? That's a very interesting conversation that we can go no bathroom breaks on for the rest of the day. Oxidants, friend or foe? The answer is in their absence, you are messed up. They need to be in balance. The interplay between reductants and oxidants, which incidentally is much bigger than this one product. Let me be clear. We have to get this started. This is the key on the piano where we started, but redox is an 88 key piano. And in 10 years, you might say, I sat in a room with this guy talking about redox before. Maybe Cherry 7-Up will say, redox inside. That's where it's headed. Now, if you know anything about strategy and you're playing chess, what are the most important squares on the chessboard? The 4 center squares. The 4 center squares on the chessboard are really important because they can minimize competitive movement and they open up options. So I used to say 10 years ago, David, to people, who's going to own the 4 center squares on the redox chessboard? And I used to say, what if I wanted to start a cola company? And I came to you guys, you're on my board of advisors. I'm going to start everybody is drinking cola. I'm starting Thai's Cola. What do you guys think? And how many of you would say, yeah?
Crowded space.
You would say, you're never going to get to the 4 center squares of that chessboard. Like I remember RC Cola made a run. You know, Diet Right, some of those, you know, it's Pepsi and Coke have the 4 center squares. And you think about who owns the 4 center squares on commercializing redox supplements? Hello, welcome to the meeting. That's us. Now you say, well, nobody knows what redox is. Mark my words, nobody knew what antioxidants were 20 years ago. Nobody was running around going, I wonder if there's antioxidants in this Cherry 7-Up. What's cool about this is you're going to see things happening in academia and in science that point to this. It's going to be very real, and we're already seeing it. But it's a cool thing to be where we are as a company, and this is where the puck is going. So, my dad was a big fan of this guy, Harold Janine. Nobody knows who he is now, but he was Times manager many years ago, ran ITT for many years. But my dad told me this when I was 22 years old. It's like, Tyler, you read a book from the beginning to end, you run a business the exact opposite way. You start with the end. Does that sound like the next version of you, by the way? You start with the end, and then you do everything you have to reach it. Our first vision statement as a company was pretty simple. My dad said, I only have one vision, achieve worldwide distribution of ASEA. My dad's a man of few words. You'll notice we added words to this. He's like, that's all we were trying to do, get it around the world. Whoever needs it's gonna find it. Our job is to get it out there. We're not a network marketing company, by the way. With all due respect, we're a biotech company who chose network marketing as the vehicle to get the product around the world.
Yeah,
Think about
baby.
that for a minute. That's a totally different approach. I don't know any other business in the world that refers to themselves as their distribution method. This industry does it a lot. We're a network marketing company. Like, actually, we're a biotech company that chose a distribution method of networking. And why? Because nobody's gonna walk into the grocery store. By the way, remember my dad's background? 20 years in the grocery industry and the food industry, he knows the drill. He's like, nobody's gonna walk into the grocery store and pull down this product, particularly with salt and water as the ingredient. We are a biotech company that chose a distribution method known as network marketing to accelerate to that vision, which was we can get this around the world faster. Does that make sense to you guys? So next time somebody makes fun of the industry or whatever, I don't even go there, I'm not on trial. Like, somebody's gonna take a shot at you for being in this meeting or being involved in this thing, control all the move. Don't let yourself be on trial. Somebody wants to paint you in a corner, I am out of the room, I don't even give them time. Because you're gonna find people like Lisa, whose dad needs some help. And yeah, you might have to work through a little bit of first saying, all right, I'll try this, that's okay. But at the same time, don't ever feel like you're on trial. Move, just move to somebody else. When Dad set out with this vision, it was early 2007. And this is just a quick cascade of how it started to move around the earth. By the way, if you said, is there a product in Russia? Is there a product in Brazil? The answer is yes. It's going everywhere. Where are we legitimately open to do business? Like, you go in for a pizza, and the guy's family's from Italy, and you talk to him about redox, and he's interested, you just opened a business in Italy. Second, he calls his family in Italy, we're open in Italy. You go get Chinese food, they happen to be Taiwanese, you have a great conversation, you suggest it to them, you're about literally 2 days away from a business in Taiwan. Do that math. You guys gotta open up your minds a little bit to what this is. This is not parochial, this is global. This is 133 countries, and nothing's keeping you from a tax write-off to go to Italy. Open a business up, find one person in Italy, right? Send them the product and ask them to start sharing it, and guess what? You have a business in Italy. Go to Italy and write it off. Enjoy life and start living that next version of you that you said, well, I can't live that. Yeah, you can. It's right in front of you. My dad's vision is real. This was 10 years. Susan, how much time am I doing? 10, 12 minutes. Oh, you're getting down to single digits. Thank you. There's the impact. We're open in 33 countries. Over 4 million cases of this produced. We paid out over this is one of my favorite numbers. I love thinking that we have become the economic impetus for over $250 million of money going back to you. And is it like 4 people making that? No, there's tens of thousands of people that have made money doing this. And the cumulative associate count into the 320,000 people. If you think you're all alone, you're not. There's 320,000 people that have tried to stress on, and there's tens and tens and tens of thousands that have been doing it for years. And we have 246 employees, and Chuck and I are constantly asking, how many kids do they have? Because that matters to us. There's 896 lives that depend on our employment. I worry about this every day. That's my job. Those kids need to go on the field trip. And that costs money, Buffy. So they need money. We added to the statement this notion that we wanted to also, we started realizing, I was saying to Dad from the beginning, this is not a product business, this is a people business. What if we set a new industry standard of professional principal management as well as personal development? There's a lot of bad actors in this space. So we said that should be added to our vision statement. So second statement was we wanted to be the best we could at developing you. Hence the next version of you discussion today. And I do it all around the world. And guess what? It matters just as much to a person in Taiwan, in Singapore, as it does here. People used to say to me, you can't give the same message you give in the States to people in Italy. They won't listen. That is not true. We're talking about principles. And when you speak truth and principles, the bell rings everywhere. It comes from the heart and it lands on the heart. People want to improve. That is our nature. That is our DNA. So that statement carried the day. We then said, you know what? We're the only players in redox. We're starting to get clear that this is a cellular health product. We added products to our portfolio. We have a killer ethos. Come to the ethos training if you want more of this brain damage I'm giving you today. I'll help you. But if you want to go extended play with me on the marathon ethos deal, come down to Dallas. We'll do a whole afternoon of this. And when you add all that up, you say, really, that started to become the vision. We had people making a lot of money. So we said, all right, what is this? It's redox, it's cellular, it's ethos, it's products, thank you, and it's culture, and it's opportunity financially. So all of that came together in our final, most recent statement where we said, you know what, we're becoming the global leader in redox-based technologies. That's where we're going. And because it's so closely tied to cellular health, that's key to us. And we're in the game. Remember my dad's vision? Achieve worldwide distribution of ASEA. That's all he said. Now what we say is achieve worldwide distribution of both. All three of these things, life-changing products, culture, and opportunity. There are people in this room who have life-changing outcomes on the product. There are people that have come to me and sent me letters saying just being in this room and hearing some of the truths taught have made me feel better about myself. Where's Shannon? Where are you, Shannon? Right here? Shannon, last night, what did you say to me as I walked out? Stand up. What did you say to me last night as I walked out, if you don't mind?
You made me feel like I matter? Is that what you're getting at?
I woke up and all I could think about was that. All I could think of, here's Shannon, a single mother, whose kids have been blessed unspeakably by these products. And you know what I want? I want you to be the product. I want you to kick trash. I want you to get up and go to the top of the mountain. I don't ever want you to look back. And when you say to me, you know what, Tyler, tonight, I actually felt like I mattered. Well, let me be clear. You matter. How can you not even think for a second that you matter? Abigail, Logan, your kids, all you're trying to do as a single mom, I applaud you. And if I can awaken that in you last night, then I'm going home a winner. Even if I shoot and miss. Because if she's willing to come up and have the courage to say, I actually felt like I mattered tonight, I kind of want to take on whoever's telling me you don't. I just want to go toe-to-toe, pull my coat off and say, let's go. Because you matter. And if that's an iPhone 4 conversation, I'm giving you permission to mute it out right now. Added to the interest is a fly. Did you bring that fly in here? I got five clippers. I got 5 minutes left. And a horsefly in February, January. Wow. I'm going to get my fly. Jeez. Wow. So Shannon, sorry, the fly thing broke the moment. You got it. All right, I'm going to finish fast. Susan, how am I doing? 5 minutes? Prescience. Interesting word. The fact of knowing something before it takes place. Foreknowledge. This is a slide from one of my father's presentations in 2010. This was the actual graph. And he's looking at me and he goes, Howard, this is going to go. When you couple athletics with general health and wellness and the power of our product, there's going to be demand for this. Now, if there is truth to this notion that vision is the art of seeing things invisible, there's an interesting thing. Then here's what happened. I'm sitting in my office. Dad has since retired, bless his heart. And I'm sitting in my office. It's like 11 at night, and I'm pondering what I want to say at convention. And I find this slide. I'm going through all my dad's former presentations. It was a real tender moment. And I'm like looking at this slide, and what's the final year on this thing? And I'm like, wait a minute. This is the final culminating year of my dad's original, outlook on this thing. This is it. So I pull up Excel, and I crank out 2 graphs. I take this and I layer it over the top, and I didn't mess with the ratios to get this to layer over. And this was the actual results of our company over that 10-year period of time. And I took a picture of my screen and I sent it to Chuck and Jerem, our CEO and president. And I said, take a look at this. Dad threw this slide up in 2010. And you can say, oh, it was just linear. No, my dad was very serious about this. He's like, this is going to happen. So think about the power of that, of where this can go. And you can do your own graph. I'm telling you right now, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be a lot closer to it than if you didn't do one at all. You need to be thinking about where you want to go. If prescience is the fact of knowing something before it takes place, then think about this compound word, pre-science. I think we're pre-science, folks. The word prescience means pre-science. And that's what's happening. Mark my words, right? The future will back up both today and what's happened the last 10 years. And when it does, right, you best be on that plane, because it's going to rocket. And it's not even happening. And for the record, I'm working on things that are 18 months in the future. I don't spend my day working on today. And I know things that are going to make this continue to go. So give that some thought as you think about the next version of you. Great quote, it continues from the Ayn Rand book. Every great new thought was opposed. You're going to get online and you're going to Google stuff out there and they're going to say, oh, this is that. I love it. Bring it on. Because I'm going to put you, Shannon, I'm going to put you online and have you tell your story to all these people saying this is a scam or we're cooking this up. You think my father needed to do this? He drives the same car and very unfortunately eats the same meals. I mean, he doesn't eat real well. He's a health and wellness guy. He's not trying to get anything. He just said this product needs to go to the world and I'm going to see to it. We're not on trial, guys. We're not. And frankly, the men of unborrowed vision went ahead. They fought, they suffered, they paid, but they won. We've already won. There's no one can tell me that we would get this business to a $200 million business in 33 countries in 10 years. And the people are just like you here. Okay, so where does the clarity come from? Well, it comes from critical thinking. That's where it actually emerges from. I know I'm running low on time, Susan. Are you nervous? Okay, now you're gonna go fast. My dad is a crazy critical thinker, and it's not just his gut, although his gut is good. He spent 27 years working with this guy. Jim Kilts ran Nabisco, Jim Kilts ran Kraft, Oscar Mayer, and Gillette. Here's a literal quote from Jim about my dad. I worked with him for 20 years, and during that time I grew to appreciate his incredible abilities to simplify complex situations and think strategically. My father reported to this guy direct. Warren Buffett says of Jim Kilts, I've never spoken to a man who understood business better than Jim Kilts. And this is what Jim Kilts says about my dad. So if you believe in the transitive property, there's something going on there, right? And that said, my dad's biggest motto, ask him for advice, anyone know it's one word. It's think. He just says, Tyler, people aren't thinking. They're not using their brains. So I said, well, what do you think about that? He gave me 12 steps. He taught me this when I was 29 years old. And he said, you know what, this is what people should think about. They should look at an assessment of their market, their competition, and who they are. They should look for trends. They should look for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then they should say, what's most critical? Steps 7 through 9, they ought to write clear strategies. And steps 10 through 12, they ought to execute those strategies. And he taught me this at 29. By 35, I was a senior vice president and chief distribution officer of a $4 billion company. And I taught this to my CEO. And that's why I got those jobs. This is like this single process alone. If I were, you want to talk about no bathroom breaks, I can go all day on this. And you will be in pain rubbing your nail on your head. So my dad would take things like the industry and market. I know Susan, I'm going. I know. The industry and market, and he would say, wow, Tyler, he'd bring this to me. He'd say, look at this. Global direct sales is a $170 billion industry. That's bigger than the NFL. That's bigger than all of the movie industry in the United States. Look at this. This is huge. And he'd say, and it's growing. It's up 80% in the last 10 years. Now look what the year is on this one. What is the year? So this is back in 2012. He would say these things to me. He'd say, Tyler, take a look at this one. There's 90 million people in this business worldwide, and it's going up every year. He would sit down and say, look at all these facts. 90 million people, 15.6 in the US alone. 1 in every 9 households in the United States is involved in network marketing. Every week, almost 50,000 people sign up. Remember, when was this? This is back in 2012. He's telling me this stuff. He's a critical thinker. So he's saying, are you seeing this? He would sit down and say, look at the US, it's still climbing. Not as much as the global, but it's climbing. It's up 6% just last year. Then he would say, let's look at what's trending around us in the world. So he'd go from number 1, I know I'm down to 1, sorry. He would then say, let's look at trends and lessons. And he would say, you know what, Tyler, there's some amazing trends happening in the world. The world population is exploding. People are staying alive longer. He would say, we're stressing the entire environment and ecosystem because the population has climbed. Look what's happening around us. He'd say, there's declining health in the world, largely because the food people are eating, trying to keep everybody alive, is not so good. And he'd say, not only that, it costs more money to get health care. And then he goes, add all of that, countries are in bigger debt than they've ever been before. And I'm like, Dad, what does all this mean? He goes, you're not seeing the dots, Tyler. Zoom out. Don't zoom in. And then he would sit there and say, that's why this product's going to go all around the world. Do you see this? He's a critical thinker. He's like, when you put that many people stressing the ecosystem and environment with declining health, and they can't afford to get health care, and you've got healthcare costs climbing, and governments can't pay for it because their sovereign debt is so high already that they're trying to absolve themselves from that responsibility. He goes, guess where the responsibility for general health lives? You. And if it's $130 a month and 4 ounces twice and 2 ounces twice a day, and he's looking at me saying, we're going to help a lot of people at a time when every trend strategically is pointing to them saying, what do you do? How do we fix this? So you guys need to understand, my dad's this kind of thinker. Like, this is the way he thinks. And I just want to finish by saying a couple things here. You know, when Jobs was doing something, he says, we're aware. I love the fact that he says, we're aware. We know what's going on here. We're doing something very significant that's going to influence the future. And that's my dad. Now, with that in mind, and you know what I'm going to say is you're going to finish my presentation, I'm serious, on the Asia Will slides, and I'm going to just take you through this last couple, and then when you, I don't know if you're taking a break or not or what, but you need to go through these slides with these folks. But let me just say this, that if you looked at where we are today, he forces a self-assessment. This is part of his critical thinking track. He says, where are you? And I have to do it every year for him. He's a brutal taskmaster, right? And I go in and I go, Dad, here's where we are today. ASEA sits on really, really solid footing. I'm trying, David. I'm trying so hard right now, like you can't imagine. Stands on very firm foundation, post-startup. Are you doing that, Susan? No. Okay. Early momentum, 50% growth each of the past 2 years. In the top 75 in the world, we're open in 33 countries. We're sound, we have no debt. We're not running around leveraging this thing to the hilt. I got no debt, okay? We fund our growth. Our executive team's been together for 7 years. This industry is a revolving door. Most execs don't hang around with each other. These are people I would drop my kids off, I trust so much. They wouldn't want them. I would drop my kids off at their house. We own the Redox platform, and our portfolio is broadening. All scalable systems are online. You come out and see our business, it looks great. We've had outside players that have come in, folks from banks and otherwise that have looked at us and said, you guys are very tight. It's running really, really well. And you say production facility can scale and it's a steady leadership across the board. Guys, we're ready. And my dad's critical thinking track is still in play. Now what I'm gonna do at this point is, Susan, you'll have to see, I think you have those slides. I do want them to see them. Susan has them, and she's sticking around. So what we're going to do is, I promise my life that I would be home tonight. Otherwise, I would just come tomorrow morning, but I promise for your family stuff tomorrow. I want to close by saying this to you guys. I'm far more interested in someone walking away from this experience, rethinking who they are and what they want to do and become. I'm far more interested in you walking away from this saying, I can be a better mom, I can be a better husband, I can be a better human being. If you think I'm top spinning you, then you be your cynical self. That's actually what I believe. I don't care if you join a company. If it's not right for you, don't do it. I believe in honoring the intelligent agency of other adults. If they choose not to, that's your choice. I will say this, you are here for a reason, and it's not you. And I've learned that in 10 years. Around this world, there are people looking for solutions to those realities and mega trends. And if gosh, I want to keep going. Can I just keep going? I gotta show you this. Cool. But watch this. I want to show you the update on this. Guys, what my dad was seeing in the industry and market, come on now, be my friend. Global direct sales. What's the last year on this slide? Watch the update. Ready? Did it stop? So what was my dad's idea at the time? He's like, this is not going to stop. It's going to keep growing. Do you think people are looking for a secondary source of income in their life on a legitimate product that can help people? What's the downside? There's no downside. You're helping people. So it's 190 now. It's up 13% since the last slide. Look at this one. 90 million people in direct sales. Guess where it is now? 118 million. Did the trend continue? So do we have reasonable basis to believe that this is not going away? This is not like bell bottoms in the 70s. This is not some weird trend that's like, that's going away. It's not a fad. This is a legitimate industry that has potential behind it. And it's waiting for you to make the choice point. You can't leave a room you were never in. If you're going to get in, go in. And invest the time in this. All right, I will stop here and say this. It's an absolute privilege and an honor for me to be here with you guys. And it's really humbling to think that all of your unique talents, abilities, and energy and time, including travel time, which it's not lost on me. Many of you drove long distances to be here. It's so humbling to think that you're captive and willing to engage in this kind of a relationship for the amount of time I've been here. It's unbelievable to me. I get on a plane, I buckle my seatbelt, and I take a breath because I'm on the plane, and I say, unbelievable. You people are beautiful souls, beautiful people. We are human beings. Let's explore and remember the common humanity we have. We need to treat each other with respect and with kindness and patience and give the benefit of the doubt to each other. We live in a world that's becoming too quick to go the other direction. I want to build a company where that's the prevailing spirit. And I want to do it with good, substantive products that people can feel good about. And I hope that we can continue to fill your pantry, if you will, with products that you can go out and say, this is good and this will help. Those of you that have a pain experience, or I shouldn't say pain, a hurt experience, I'm grateful. I will tell you, don't go tell people this cures something. You shouldn't say that. Don't say anything about this that's not true. Just tell them to try it. Just put the light bulb in the thing and flip the switch and let them figure it out. And don't get out there saying stuff you shouldn't say. We shouldn't do that. I wish you the greatest of success, joy, happiness, safety, all the good things, regardless of whether this is something you decide to engage in or not. There's plenty of oxygen in this world. You can succeed wherever you want. But I do say this, we're serious about this. We're not asking anybody's opinion. We're going to go do it. And we're doing it now. And I would suggest you jump on the train with us. We're going to have a great ride, great distance, and we're going to make a lot of difference. If not, we will wave, but we're going. So you're here for a reason. Thank you very much for your patience with 6 clickers.